of the Shire of Moorabool. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as true stewards of your creation. May we be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. I will now read the Acknowledgement of Country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. I will skip over item 3 because we are not we're recording but not live streaming. Oh, we are now live streaming. In accordance with Moorabool Shire Council's governance rules, the Council will be recording and live streaming this meeting now. The Moorabool News and Star Weekly have also been granted permission to record this meeting. I will move ahead to item 4 and 5, present and apologies.
We are going to be trying to get Councillor Ward online. Zoom link isn't working, so we're going to be through.
Okay, so we almost have all councillors online. We're just trying to get Councillor Ward, most present in the room, sorry, just one we're trying to get online. So we'll come back to confirming that. Confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we have minutes from the 6th of December 2023 Ordinary Meeting of Council and the 20th of December 2023 Special Meeting of Council to be confirmed. Do I have a councillor to move the minutes to be confirmed? So moved. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Berry. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 7, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest to declare? No. Item 8, public question time. Councillors, we have received one question from a member of the public to be considered at this meeting. The question is from Mr John Kowalski. The question will be read and responded by our General Manager of Community Assets and Infrastructure, Mr Phil Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The question is, will Council please advise me of the proposed start and completion dates for building the Ballan Library and Community Hub? And the response is, tenders have recently closed for the Ballan Library construction, are currently being evaluated. Subject to Council awarding a contract for the project, it is anticipated the works will commence by June 2024 and be completed by August-September 2025, noting that a final program will be agreed with the successful contractor.
Thank you, Mr Jeffrey. We'll move to item 9, petitions. There are no petitions listed in the agenda. Item 10, and there are no presentations or deputations listed in this agenda. Item 11, community planning and development. Councillors, we have item 11.1, planning scheme amendment C103, MWR, Hopetoun Park North authorisation. There are no registered speakers to this item. Do I have any questions for officers or a mover for the recommendation?
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Berry, would you like to second? Or would you have a question?
Yeah, could I have a question first?
Yes.
I'm happy to second. I'm happy for Councillor Sullivan to second. But just had a question on this land that it does mention it was prior cropping. Is that recently?
Mr Bazoot now.
Through you, Madam Chair. I'll have to review the background, but I don't believe it's recent cropping. That would have been picked up through the background studies and environmental analysis that's been undertaken.
Thank you.
Are you happy to move that, Councillor Berry? Yes. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Do we have any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to item 12.1, Community Asset Committees reports. Do I have any questions or do I have a mover for the item? Moved by Councillor Dudzik. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sullivan, thank you. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 13.1, consideration of intent to seek a rate cap variation for 2024-2025. Do I have any questions for... Yes,
I have a question, if I
Councillor
may,
Sullivan.
Madam Chair. What's the latest date we have to make a decision on notifying that we're not having a rate capping? What's the latest time?
Mr Seah.
In this instance, I will defer to our CFO, Stephen.
Madam Chair, through you, the latest date that an application needs to be made to the Essential Services Commission is the 31st of March.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor
Just a
Edwards.
question. So, by not going for a rate variation and considering that the CPI is a lot higher than what the rate capping figure was, I believe it was around 5.5, was that correct?
Mr Seah.
Through the Chair, the rate cap itself has come in at 2.75. The Essential Services Commission recommended nearly 4, and I think CPI was running at just over 5.
Yeah, so is this going to have a major impact on us, considering that just to stay the same, we're going to be far worse off?
Through the Chair, based on our initial modelling, it does have a significant impact, and there are some other elements that the government are considering around waste charges and those kind of things that could have a significant impact as well. I suppose at this moment in time, we have prepared the budget on the basis of the cap. So we haven't prepared a budget on the basis of an increase, but it does have significant impact in future years, because for the last 3 to 4 years, CPI has been running well above where the cap is.
I have a subsequent one. So when they introduced this fair go rating system, wasn't it around the fact that it should remain equivalent to CPI?
Mr Seah.
That was our understanding, and it's deviated from that for the last 2 years.
Any other questions? Councillor Sullivan.
I guess, well, question or comment perhaps. I guess my concern is that I'm not a great advocate for raising rates, but we don't want to turn the wick down too much that we sort of find ourselves in strife into the future, because there's a compounding element to this going forward, isn't there? So that's why, hence I asked the question, do we have to make a decision tonight? That's all.
Mr Seah.
No, councillors, no, you don't have to make a decision tonight. We actually do have time, and we will be presenting the budget over the next few weeks, where you'll get probably a lot more clarity around the impact it does have on our bottom line and going forward. We have projected that out for the 10-year impact.
With your indulgence, I would move that we defer this until this item, given that we've just been advised we do have some leeway time-wise. So perhaps in fairness, we may even go down this path, but at least we will give it all due consideration. So I would move that we defer it, please.
Councillor Sullivan has proposed to defer it. We have a second for a deferral. Do I have any dissent? Yes? Okay, I will open the debate. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess it's not that I'm advocating that we increase it, but I'd like to know the full implication of the decision before we, on the point where we land. So I guess that's where I'm coming from. And if we're advised we have this to the end of March, so if we give it some, once we have all that information before us, it might make it clear as to where we should be heading with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. To be fair, the fair go rate system's been a crock of proverbial since it arrived. And all it really did was shift the focus back onto council, because there's a lot of anomalies in how it operates, and the perceptions of the fair go rate system have been grossly exaggerated in terms of a positive thing for the residents. And the fact is that there's not a council in Victoria that has chosen to go to zero rates because, one, they can't afford to. We've been pushed into that position. But realistically, that's the only way you'll expose the fair go rate system for what it is. And at some point, there'll be a council brave enough that will tough that out and started to realise the cost shift from state government, federal government, across to local government is unsustainable. And it has been for a long time. We've seen this over and over again over the last decade. We've had continual efforts to try and reduce the rates, because even now, by definition, when they discuss the rate cap, they just call it a tax. And the fact is, you just can't have three taxes. You can't have a federal tax that's based on your revenue or your income, that's supposed to be a fair system, and it is in some respects. Then you have a state tax that's purely to make up for the incompetence of state government, which is pretty relevant. And then you have the cost shift tax, which is local government. So whilst I accept everything that Councillor Sullivan says in terms of the ramifications or the unintended consequences, I don't want to enable these people, and I'm sick of enabling these people. Every time we can't even build a pool, and we have one government arguing with another government from the same brand, which, how many times did you pull the wool over someone's eyes before you realise you're up the sheep's arse? Because that's what it is, it's a load of crap. And until we take a stand on this stuff and turn around to state government and say, yeah, you promised CPI, yeah, we can't do CPI, but there is a magic formula in there that's missing, and that's growth. Because when they sit around the boffins table of state government and work out what the rate cap's going to be, they don't include growth in that exercise. And if you look across all of the councils around Victoria, and you'll see that some have extraordinary compounding growth, where it really just shows the deficiencies over a number of years and the lack of investment in these regions, especially rural regions, that comes to the fore, especially when you get into compounding growth. So whilst I accept, and I could probably preempt what Councillor Edwards is going to say, because I think he's probably going to be dead right. I can't argue with that. But what I will not do and cannot do is enable a state government that, like all governments, seems to be addicted to taxes to the point where, especially in these times where people are struggling to make ends meet because of cost of living. And we've got a Prime Minister running around that has absolutely no idea what's going on in the real world. And then you've got these wacko premiers who couldn't balance their checkbooks, let alone a state budget, let alone fry a tuck out of Werribee. He's had no idea since the day he arrived. And that's why this state's in so much trouble. If we continue to enable these people, we will be in exactly the same trouble for completely different reasons. So I'm suggesting that whilst it's not ideal, I'm saying that we don't apply for an increase regardless. What we need to do is we need to live within our means so that we can then show where the cost shift is between local government and state government, and have that argument from an advocacy point of view, rather than confusing the punters, which is exactly what we're doing now, confusing the punters by saying we need to put the rates up. When we arrived here a decade ago, the rate increases, we were playing catch-up football, 10 goals into the wind, and we were doing 7s and 8s regularly just to catch up, and we hadn't built a bloody swimming pool since Dawn Fraser went for a dip in 1956, and we're still in that same problem today. So I'm suggesting that we stick to the book. We've already got a budget to look at, and then we get off our backsides and get out there and advocate and say, this is the actual cost shift to the Moorabool Shire forced upon us by the lack of investment of the state government and the federal government. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. I'll move over to the seconder, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, for me, it's very similar to Councillor Sullivan. Whilst we understand the financial pressures on homes and families at the moment, I'd like to be able to explain to our residents what that actually means. That the fact that the state government is not keeping their hand open, that they are forcing us to take reductions greater than CPI, which means there's an effect to our community and services. I'm not saying that we will put it up, same as Councillor Sullivan, but what I would like to be able to do is explain to the community what the effect of the state government rate cap will do to us in this particular year, and the ongoing effect for 2 to 3 years as a compounding effect, as Councillor Sullivan said. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'll invite other councillors to speak if they wish. Councillor Ward, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pardon me, I'd like to speak in favour of Councillor Sullivan's motion to defer. I think there's a line in the sand being drawn at the moment, and I also support what Councillor Tatchell said. It's been notable over the last 3 or 4 years that inflation has run at about 6 or 7%, and noting that the Essential Services Commission has recommended over the last 2 years that rates be increased by 4% and in 2024 by 3.75%, yet the state government has capped at 3.5%. And we all know, pardon me, construction costs over the last few years have increased by over 30%. So the impact to council's bottom line has been enormous. I note that in 2024, local government councils' work cover premiums have been increasing by, on an average, about 33%. So across the 51 councils surveyed, that's an additional $24 million councils have to find. And in the case of Mirabel, that's over $1 million. Our waste service fees revenue this year will decrease by about $1 million because of the way the state government has changed council's ability to charge. So we're being asked to find more money. We're being our ability to increase our revenue has been decreasing. And Councillor Tatchell is absolutely right about the cost shifting. It is ridiculous, whether it be the landfill levy that has increased by 91% over the last few years, the reduction in state government assistance for simple things like school crossing supervisors, urban planning, they all add to the bottom line. And the last comment I'll make is that there was a recent audit done of the councils in Queensland. 24 of the 63 councils surveyed generated losses in the current year, and what was most alarming was 48 of the 63 councils were considered moderate to high risk of not being financially sustainable into the future. So, as I said, I support Councillor Sullivan's motion to defer, but I also agree entirely with Councillor Tatchell that the cost shifting is killing local government. They'll argue we get grants, but to actually achieve and receive the grants, we actually have to find local contributions. So our revenue is decreasing. The pressure on us to provide increases services, and we provide over 200 services to local residents, is increasing. I think this is a critical moment in the sustainability of local government. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Is there any other councillors that would like to speak? Councillor Dudzik.
Council staff have actually run the figures and said that it's possible for us to operate without applying for a rate cap variation. They've done the books, they've checked them over, they've worked the scenarios, the financial plans, and they've said we don't need to apply for a rate cap variation. And at the end of the day, we're here for residents who don't want their rates excessively raised. So I would flag that if this motion to defer fails, that I would move the motion in the council papers that we don't apply for a rate cap variation.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. If no other councillor would like to speak, Councillor Berry, you would like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a very difficult situation, and listening to pieces from each, whilst I like to consider the ratepayers at most, I'm not sure whether the communication out there, if we decided to look at going for a higher rate. I'm a bit along the lines of Councillor Dudzik that we've been assured that council have put out the papers for the budget to be in line with the 2.75 increase. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Okay, councillors,
A question.
Oh,
Madam
sorry.
Mayor.
Yes.
Just in response to the debate, I believe we can ask a question. My question would be, does Councillor Berry understand what impact that we're going to have on before making that decision?
Councillor Berry, are you happy to answer that question?
I think, well, to officers, I'm trusting of the officers that they're saying that the budget is in line with the 2.75. the adjustment is horrific for us. I know ours was 3.5, but I'm assured through the finance officers that we might get by. So I just don't like the idea of we going out, it gets out into the community that we're looking at a higher rate than what the government is suggesting. And what Councillor Tatchell was also saying, maybe put the government in a position that this is what you have done to councils too. I know, looking at that outcome isn't ideal, but yeah, I'm just really concerned around even that conversation of we're suggesting we go for a higher rate.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. I will pass back to Councillor Sullivan to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I'd just like to clear up one misconception. We are not, and I am not proposing to increase the rates. What I'm proposing is that we have a pause because we can. The decision doesn't have to be made until late March, just to get a better understanding of the impact of what this really means. That's what I want us to actually see. Councillor Tatchell made a very persuasive argument in his eloquent sort of way, and I don't think anybody, but I'd just like to know what that impact might be, and I think that's what sort of tease out, because the compounding matter going forward, it will have a great impact into the future. It's sort of like not painting your house. You can get away with it for a while, but after a while, when the weatherboards start to fall off, you think, oh, hell, should have painted it. Well, I think we sort of need to know what that intervention level is and what we do perhaps need. So it's all the comments made by councillors here tonight are relevant and I think very pertinent to this discussion. I think they're the sort of questions that I would like to sort of teased out beforehand so we have a clear understanding. And as I say, I am not suggesting we increase rates in case there's a misconception. It's really just put a pause in the process to get a better understanding. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote to defer. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Item 14, other reports. There are no other reports listed in the agenda. Item 15, notices of motion. There are none. Item 16, notices of rescission. Also none. Item 17.1, Mayor's Report. Councillors, do I have a mover for the Mayor's Report? Thank you, Councillor Ward. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 18, Councillors' Report. I will go around the room. Councillor Sullivan, do you have anything
Madam
to
Mayor.
report?
Just along with several other councillors, I attended the Australia Day celebration, of which you were inducted a good number of new Australian residents, and it was actually a real joy to see the happiness in their faces when you're up close like that, to see how they really it meant a lot to them to become naturalised Australian citizens. So I think it was great, and commend council staff and all involved in making it a very enjoyable morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. I'll go Councillor Tatchell and then Councillor Ward.
With the council indulgence, I'd just like to mention, I know we've had a long break between council meetings, but I just mentioned the passing of Marlene Burville. It's really unfortunate that we've had 6 weeks, I suppose, and there hasn't been an opportunity, or probably 8 weeks really, to talk about Marlene, and she was our Citizen of the Year a few years ago, and I've known Marlene 35, 40 years. Extraordinary lady, an absolutely extraordinary lady. One of those quiet achievers that we see the Australia Day celebrations and we see the OBEs and everything handing out bloody cheesecakes to people that are well known, and then you have people like Marlene Burville who probably quintessentially are the actual guts of our shire. These are the people that probably, I know from the very first time I met her, such a very quiet, unassuming lady. But when I realised the amount of work she did in our community with her own battles, I mean, Reg was very sick for a long period of time, her husband, until he passed. Her battles with cancer over a long period of time, she had 3 battles of that, and she got into her 90th year in the planet, or, you know, and was still battling, and I became very close to her over a period of time, and I actually enjoyed her company immensely. And she'd often drop off Anzac cookies for us to share with a cup of coffee and talk about the problems of the world. And Marlene Burville was one of those people that you were just proud to know, and Marlene Burville was one of those people that we should all aspire to be. That you know, it's not about us, it's about somebody else. And I know from the aged care centre, from when I was on the board of the hospital, that every day Marlene would turn up there and go and get the prescriptions and from the aged care centre and take them up to the chemist shop. This is before they got a chemist internally, and fill out those prescriptions. And to the ladies that were in the aged care, she would pick up products for them to make sure their hair was done, and you know, that they had makeup and things like that, so that they always felt presentable and felt important. And then spend a lot of time just sitting with people and holding their hand in very, very difficult times, and even though she was having a difficult time herself. When I heard about it before Christmas, you know, I was incredibly saddened by it. You know, I think we all have a use-by date at some point, but there's some people you just wish would last forever, and or at least the spirit of Marlene Burville in terms of our region, and especially the rural region. You would hope that you know, whilst all the politicians talk about beacons and shining lights, this is the sort of character that is a shining light for all of rural Victoria, and maybe one day, maybe, you know, you won't have to be the fastest or the best swimmer or the best paid doctor or whatever. They'll actually give someone an achievement award just for being a bloody decent human being and an extraordinary member of our community. And I was talking to Colin this morning. It's incredibly sad. I know that she was old, but there's some people you just don't want to go, because they actually lift you up whenever you speak to them. They actually, you spend 5 minutes with them, and they make you want to be a better person. And you know, and that's the legacy that Marlene Burville has left our community. I think she's made us all want to be better people. So that's what I've got to say about Marlene. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to reiterate, first of all, the earlier comment about the Australia Day celebrations. Having been privileged to attend several last year, I was unable to attend this year, but I did watch it online. I just wanted to thank everyone involved and commend them on the organisation, and also just congratulate you, Madam Mayor, on the role you did on the day. I thought it was an outstanding service, so well done. The second item I want to discuss is the Mirrabul News. The Mirrabul News was established by Paul and Helen Tatchell in 2005, and it did quickly become synonymous with the Mirrabul Shire Council. It was an important avenue to keep local residents informed of news issues. It was a wonderful tool to advocate to local, state and federal government on matters of local importance. The Mirrabul News was also very generous in their supporting and promoting of community groups, clubs and organisations. And I felt it also provided a great source of local pride to the community. So with the recent sale of the Mirrabul News, I also want to recognise the outstanding contribution of Helen Tatchell, who's been the owner, manager and editor from 2005 to 23rd of January this year, which is nearly 20 years, and thank her for her passionate service to the Mirrabul Shire Council and our communities over that period. And further also, I want to thank and congratulate and recognise Councillor Paul Tatchell. Paul was a driving force in the establishment of the Mirrabul News. Over the last 12 years, obviously, Paul removed himself from the operations of the newspaper following his appointment as a councillor, and at various times he was also mayor. That Paul was pivotal in establishing it, Mirrabul News, and I think its service and its contribution to Murrible over those 19 years has been outstanding. So on behalf of myself and I think a large part of the community, I just want to thank Helen and Paul Tatchell.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say, first of all, rest in peace, Marlene Burble. The first I've heard about it, she was a lovely lady. When I was working at the newspaper, she used to bring in all those cookies, and I don't think they all got to you either, Councillor Tatchell. She was a very good cook as well. So yes, rest in peace, Marlene Burble. I attended the official opening of the the Bacchus Marsh Indoor Stadium on the 12th of December. It's an amazing facility, so I'll be going down there many times to check out all the activity that's going on in that. We're very lucky as a Shire to have that facility available to the community. On the 14th of December, I attended the official opening of the West Mattingley Early Years Community Hub. Just amazing, that building too, and all the facilities there for all the up-and-coming young ones to attend. I was very impressed by the new blocks that kids get to play with now, little blocks with like Dimentis in them, never seen in our day or never seen before. So amazing equipment and the facilities. So well done to Council for the opening, and it was pleasing to see a lot of the community and the kids there that day that will be attending, and I can just imagine they had a ball that day and will continue to in their learnings. On the 20th of January, I attended the Indoor Stadium Fun Community Open Day, which was at the Mark Centre once again. It was pleasing to see. I think I got there around 9:30, same time as Councillor Ward, and there was people coming in as early as that. There was a constant stream of people coming in and testing out the Mark Stadium, having a little go at netball, basketball. Even councillors participated in the yoga in that stance, which was a little bit difficult, but I think Councillor Ward and Councillor Alley did very well at the yoga event. On the 26th of January, as with other councillors, attended the Australia Day Awards, which was held on Australia Day, which was fantastic, and seeing all the Australian citizenship ceremony as well. And yes, there were smiles on all those people's faces, and it was great to be in the Bacchus Marsh Public Hall too, such a big facility that it was almost full as well with all family members and friends. And I also spoke to a few of the community who attended who didn't have anybody taking their oath, but thought they'd come down. They were very impressed. So well done to council staff and to Mayor Ali for Minari for the presentation of the part. It was well done. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Dudley.
I attended with other councillors the opening of the Bacchus Marsh Indoor Stadium and also the West Mattingley Early Years Hub and Community Hub, and I'd just like to acknowledge and congratulate all the staff who made those facilities happen, because it's a lot of work building those facilities and organising everything that goes into it, and I just want you to know that they look fantastic, and thank you. I also attended the Australia Day Awards ceremony along with other councillors, and yes, the Mayor did an excellent job, and it was great. It was actually interesting how many people I saw become Australians who've actually lived here for 10, 20 years and that I knew and would never have suspected they weren't Australians, and they were quite prominent in the community. Yeah, it was an excellent ceremony, and yeah, I'm really glad to have witnessed it.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate what other councillors have already spoken about the Australia Day ceremony on 26th of January. I thought it was a really good day, well turned out by the community. I think the hall was pretty full. Staff once again have exceeded. I will say there was a disappointing side to it this year, and that was the fact that we had no state or federal representation for the first time in my 12 years that I've attended this function. I think if the if they don't believe it's worth attending, then maybe they should consider changing the date, because they set the date. We have a function and our community fully supports it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'll just get a mover for the councillor reports, if I could. Thank you, Councillor Berry. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 19, urgent business. I'll go back around the room to see if there's any urgent business from councillors. Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions, if I may.
Yes.
Councillors may recall that, 2 years ago we had those severe storms that went through the Wombat Forests and caused devastation in our small towns, Blackwood, Coonjibora and Barkstead and the like, and the communities around it. And last year, there's a resolution of councils to write to state government what's happening with that timber in the forest, in the Wombat Forest particularly. And I'm just inquiring as to whether it had a response. And the reason that I'm asking this is that recent reports in the Weekly Times would indicate there's about 500,000 tonnes of debris or timber left on the forest floor in the Wombat Forest. And the recent court decision, which even stops any salvaging of that timber, even for firewood, where does that place our communities going forward? So, and we did move a motion, and I'll just ask a question of that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, I confirm that we did send it, and it was a joint letter. We sent it with Macedon Ranges and Hepburn. To date, we haven't received any response. We have actually reached out to our neighbours to see if they have received a response, but Murrabba Shore has not received a response to that correspondence as yet, and we will be following up.
I have another question, if I may,
Yes,
Madam
Councillor
Chair.
Sullivan.
I'm just inquiring as to where the policy with the installation of security cameras on council-owned properties, where it's at the moment. And the reason I'm asking is there was an incidence of graffiti and vandalism at the Navigators Community Centre. So I'm just inquiring as to where that is at the moment, because we have it does put a lot of our community-owned facilities at risk. And I think I'm just inquiring as to, I know we're going through a process, but where it's at, so we might be able to advise the community when they're going to be rolled out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Yes, thank you.
So through the Chair, the policy has already been adopted. What we're doing at the moment is doing the procedure. So for the community asset committees, the procedure that we can do for eligibility. So we're working through that at the moment, and we're hoping to get that through the process within the next week or so.
So this is to determine where they'll be placed. Is that what you're suggesting, or not?
So it's based on whether it's going to be funded by the actual community asset committee themselves, whether it's funded by council, where they'll be placed, how they'll be maintained, that sort of thing.
Through you, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I would have
Councillor
thought, given it's council-owned assets, the council should be actually the one who is funding that. I don't think it's up to the community groups themselves to have to fund it. That's my view of it. Others may have a different view. I mean, these are council-owned facilities. They are maintaining them on our behalf. So I think it's a bit rich then to say, oh, well, you've got to pay for the camera. Anyway, we'll let that all come. Thank you very much.
More discussion to be had. Councillor Tatchell?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I just have a couple of questions as well. I noted in the diary for councillors that I didn't see an invitation for the POW Memorial on the 11th of February, which we've attended as far as I can recall. And the reason I ask is because it was actually someone from Murrabba Shire who designed the POW Memorial, and it's probably it is the largest in Australia. And I'm just concerned that we didn't get an invitation, or we've got no one presenting or there. And
Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, I'll have to take that on notice, and I'll follow that straight up after this meeting. I'm not aware of an invitation, but I just need to follow that up just to be certain.
I think it's a very important thing that we attend.
Thank you.
And I have another question. Just on the basketball stadium, I know it's become common practice where we don't acknowledge other councils or past councillors for the work they've done in advocacy, but I'd just like to say that you know, we probably need to include these people, the Bacchus Marsh councillors, in terms of the work that was done down there to get that money to advocate for them. I mean, from the very day I arrived on council 12 years ago, there was Alan Connery talking about it, and then we went through, John Spain was talking about it, and then of course later we had Jared Bingham, and of course David worked incredibly hard to bring it to the forefront in understanding the problems we had with facilities of basketball, and whilst he was chair of the peri-urban, did an enormous amount of work in the background talking to ministers to get them to understand the facilities that we would require. So my question is, well, it's probably not a question, I think it may have to come back as a motion, but I'll continually ask for this, that if we're going to write speeches and we're going to go and cut ribbons, we need to understand a lot of the work is done 2 and 3 councils before that the ribbon's actually cut. And there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work over that period of time. West Mattingly is a very similar one, and some current councillors from Bacchus Marsh that have done that as well. I just think it's only reasonable that they be acknowledged, because there's nothing in the media about it. There was nothing said in the media about these people that have worked tirelessly for the community, and some of these people have been on council a very long time and done a lot of work in very trying circumstances. So that's my request or question. You can take it any way you want, but it will be my bugbear throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Ward, do you have any urgent business?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
No. Councillor Berry?
Nothing, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Dudzik?
In relation to the security cameras, there is one asset committee and they were quite happy to pay for the cameras and have said they'd pay for the camera, but they were waiting on a form from council to be allowed to pay for it, and they're still waiting. And we were following that up in the past few weeks, but they're not actually expecting council to pay in all circumstances. They just want to be able to do it, and they even have the money. And that was the Bacchus Marsh Public Hall. In relation to the basketball stadium, I was actually Councillor Edwards who moved the motion that we get the report for the basketball stadium. So if you actually want to acknowledge anyone about the basketball stadium, it's actually Councillor Edwards who should receive the most acknowledgement. Oh, you do, yeah, but like he's the main one in my view. The other urgent thing that I am aware of is I did raise a CRMS, but I'm aware there has been 2 accidents in Main Street because of the seeds that fall from the trees in the past week, and 2 accidents in 1 week, and asking them to sweep the street. I think there is a real big issue and council needs to look at it, and I have raised it, but we really do need to look at it, and I see that as urgent.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillor Edwards, do you have any urgent business?
No urgent business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. So we'll move to item 20. There is no closed session of meeting to the public tonight. So that commences our meeting tonight. Thank you, councillors, officers and members of the public for attending this evening. I'll now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.